Welcome back to the Punk Rock Drummers Podcast, where we talk to a drummer who is or was or in a punk band or just inspired by the music in general. This is Season 2, Episode 3 with the illustrious, impeccable, amazing Brian Walsby.
Yeah, this was a big one for you, being an artist.
Yeah, dude, Brian, he's one of my favorite artists. He's just a nice guy, man. He's got a lot to say, a lot of cool insight, too. A lot of people probably didn't know. He's also a really great drummer in a lot of fun bands, which I was going to tell you about, but no, you got to listen.
Yeah, I like the older guys especially. They have lots of cool stories. You know, they've been there, done that, seen everything, experienced it all, and always makes for a really good talk.
Yeah, I think there's also, I would love to have him back for an episode 2 to maybe focus more on his art and how that's been tied into the music scene for a lot of times, from like Napalm Death to the Melvins to Corrosion of Conformity. He's got a very long list, and he's also an artist, one of many artists from a company called Bifocal Media. And I actually brought my favorite Bifocal shirt that he did of this really awesome hardcore punk band called The Offenders from Matt's hometown of Texas. Did I say it right? Texas.
Texas.
Gotta get some teeth in there in Texas. But yeah, if no one's heard of The Offenders, check them out. Kind of like a cool alternative to Minor Threat, if you will. He's also got a book called Man-Child. It's the celebration of 20 years of Doodles. You can grab that pretty much wherever. And he's also open for commission work. I've had him do some really cool stuff for me. He did an illustration of my wife and daughters as the 4 women from the movie The Craft, which is my wife's favorite movie. And yeah, it's just at Brian Walsby, BrianWalsby. You can hit him up there for commissions. Support artists. Come on now.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So so glad we got hooked up with him. Really cool guy, really interesting guy. Made for a really good episode. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah. Any news going on? Anything to talk about other than the CEO guy getting caught at a Coldplay concert? That's the only thing I've seen.
What was that?
You haven't seen that yet, have you?
No, I did. I wish he could un-CEO that.
So I saw the funniest meme today. It was who sings that Photograph song? Look at that photograph.
I believe it was look at this. It's Frodo's map. It was about Lord of the Rings. It was all.
Is that Nickelback?
Oh, buddy, this place is bouncing like a beach ball Nickelback concert. Yeah.
Anyway, it shows him holding up that photograph, and it says it's those guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna cheat, don't go to somewhere where there's a jumbotron or all that stuff. Or you could just not be a cheating piece of shit. Exactly. It's funny is because you could do this thing if you're unhappy in a relationship where you could just be honest with the person and talk to them, and they might be a little bummed, but I guarantee less bummed than fucking cheating. Sorry. Can you tell I don't like cheating? Yeah. Anyways, I'm just kidding. I cheat on you all the time, Matt. What? Now everyone knows we're dating.
That's so sad.
Whoopsie daisies.
Yeah, we still haven't even met, so it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do that.
Is it hard, Matt? Well, this is why we got that explicit tag, right?
I know, right? I know I always have to click not suitable for children on the YouTube version. Anyway, do we have anything to promote? Any news? Anything like that?
I don't know, man.
Always sleeved washers, though. Sleeved washers.
Always sleeved washers.
Backwards. Any of you guys watching on YouTube, sleeved washers, sleevewashers.com. Keep your drums in tune.
For you, your low pitch tuners too. These things are great. I keep my toms for certain stuff, like pretty much tune them to a wrinkle, tighten them just to get the wrinkle go away. And usually I play 5 days a week for hour at a time. And I have not had to tune these drums once or tighten them up since I put these on. So they're actually like really just a good product, who we're not sponsored by yet. So that's where I need the echo effect back on. But yeah, man. What about you?
My band Fire Cell. Yeah, my band Fire Cell will be playing in Belgium at Brack Rock. I believe Millen Collin is kind of headlining that one. First time to Europe for me. So everybody says it's awesome. They say the catering is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be
Awesome.
fun.
I'll just be watching Fraggle Rock at home. So
Now I'll be sending you all sorts of videos and stuff of what's going on, and maybe I can interview some drummers out there. Maybe I'll, figure out how I can take advantage of it and do some extra content for the channel.
that'd be sweet.
Yeah. So all right.
Well, without further ado, Brian Walsby.
Let's do it.
Later, nerds.
Howdy.
How are you, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm good.
I love another episode with a bunch of four eyes.
Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Are we all united in being nearsighted?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm horribly nearsighted.
Is nearsighted when you have to take when you don't see well without your glasses far
Exactly.
away?
Far away, yeah. So when you take off your glasses, everything's really like blurry, and you just can't. I mean, you can sort of see fuzzy
Yeah.
shapes, but you couldn't drive a car. Without
Oh,
your
and
glasses.
I've got an astigmatism where like headlights look like, stars coming at me.
Even better.
You always got to one up everybody, Matt. Come on, man.
Well, hey, before we get started, thanks a lot for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to have you. And I know that this is a bit like wearing the shirt of the band that you went to see, but
Oh yeah, I do that. Yeah.
it was funny, man, when I emailed Charles and he hit me back and was just like, I'd be happy to send you guys shirts. I'm like, that's great because I would have spent half my money there anyway. So it worked out.
Charles is a very honest person, so it's always been really easy to work with him, and he's been my friend for a really long time. We used to do like some of my books he put out in Bifocal Media, and then when all that shit ended, we started doing shirts, and I was one of the first people that drew something for him, and now he has this huge stable of people that do stuff for him all the time. All these other artists, including Chris Sherry, of course, and there's a lot of other people. And if I name one, I'll forget everyone else. So I'll just
leave it there.
leave it.
I'm sporting my Dave Smalley shirt.
Yeah, see, there you go. Dave.
So you were the first artist to work with Charles at Bifocal.
Bimocal. I think as far as like just T-shirts, like I think the first one was a Melvin's T-shirt, and then the second one right immediately afterwards was my first Descendants shirt, which was them as the X-Men, which I've done more than once, of course. And those shirts did pretty well, and that just led to a bunch of other stuff that happened. And that was like probably 12 years ago, 11 years ago. I don't know. Time's an abstract concept, so
It's pretty safe when you do anything Descendants. People are gonna gobble that up.
Yeah. Things certainly changed a lot in the last 40 years or so.
Yeah.
So I have to say, everything froze on my end for a minute there, so I missed pretty much everything after you said my first shirt, which I'll hear. So this is kind of funny when it happens because now I get to listen to these episodes and it's like little Easter eggs for me.
See,
so,
I don't think it's on my end. I think it's on your end, Christian. I don't know what that is.
We were talking shit about your shirt. Like
it's bad, right?
Some hack drew it or something like that.
It is funny, man. One day I had to go pick up one of my daughters early from school. So I left to work at the tattoo shop and I'm about to walk in to get them. And I'm like, I had this shirt on. I'm like, what's worse? Do I walk into the grade school with a Circle Jerks t-shirt on, or do I take my shirt off in the parking lot inside it out? I don't know. I don't know what's worse.
At least you're not wearing a Black Flag Police Story t-shirt.
There you go.
A shirt that when you put it on, no matter what era, you're just like, do I really want to wear this shirt in public? Do I really want to risk whatever it's gonna?
Yeah. But I came back in talking about the Descendants.
Yeah. So if it does that, just it's not freezing up. The video is not freezing up. I didn't see any freezing.
Well, that's why
but you see
I stayed
freezing.
still.
So
I'd stay still and quiet during that part. So
I don't know what
just,
that is.
So your connection's not really good, but I can hear Matt.
Oh, so you're having trouble hearing me as well?
Well, no, I'm not having. I got the names confused. I'm sorry. I'm not having trouble hearing you at all. But you're having trouble hearing us, right?
Yeah, but it was just for a couple seconds. But I mainly wanted to let you guys know, just in case I had any repeat questions, and that's why. So, yeah, I think one of the first shirts that I got from you was the gray variant of All.
Yeah. The Descendants All family have let me, mostly because of Bill, because like we've known each other for a really long time. You know, even though I haven't really actually physically seen those guys a whole lot, you know, I don't know. I kind of, I wouldn't say that we're like great friends or anything like that, but I've known all those guys for like since 1985, 86. Because anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent. So let me.
Please do.
Well, are you sure? Okay.
Yeah, I love tangents.
All right. Well, this tangent is basically, I was in a band called Scared Straight. It was 1985. We had a tour across the country with another band from Oxnard called Ill Repute. This is a famous story. We got 2 weeks into the tour. It was like our first time away from home. It was like I was like 19 years old, and it was freedom. And back then, well, I think it doesn't really matter so much that it's back then, but anytime you're like when you're a young person and you're doing stuff like that, it doesn't matter how bad it actually sucks. It's still great. So it was great, you know. And then we played a show in Pittsburgh, and we parked in the neighborhood of the promoter, this guy named Mike Lavella, and somebody broke in and drove off with our everything, the equipment, all of our personal belongings or whatever. Tour over. I go down to North Carolina because I knew the guys in Corrosion of Conformity, you know, of course. I called Reed up and I was like, what are you guys doing? I don't want to go home because this is my first time away from home. I'm on the East Coast, you know. And he said, stay there. We'll pick you up in a couple of days. We're going to New York to see the Bad Brains play their reunion show. It was after the first time they broke up. And Raw Power opened up. And it was like, yeah, I think I can do that. So I went up there, had a great time, went back with the COC guys to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I live now. Had a great time. Was traveling with them for like a month and a half. Every time a weekend came, COC would go and play somewhere up the East Coast. And they befriended the Descendants around the same time. The version of the band, the I Don't Want to Grow Up era, with Doug on bass and Ray on guitar. So both bands liked each other and hit it off. And that's basically how I got to finally meet the Descendants guys. And then that just kind of carried on, you know. I think I sang a song. I sang a show for them at the end of 85 when I went back to California because Milo was coming up from San Diego when he was going to school. So Bill was like, you know our stuff. You want to sing some songs until Milo gets here? I was like, fuck yeah. So I was Milo for like 8 or 9 songs at some show at, I want to say, not UCLA, USC, a school in the San Fernando Valley. So that was a huge thrill because, you know, I love the Descendants and I knew every song, every lyric.
Yes.
And I was doing my impersonation, and then somebody tapped me on the shoulder after the 9th song, and I turned around and it was Milo, and I went, here you go.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up too, because when we spoke briefly on the phone the other day, I had kind of mentioned that Bill comes up in some sort of capacity in almost every episode. And I thought it was so interesting that you had such a different, like, you were a peer. Not so much, you know, influenced by him as a drummer, but he was just.
I was totally in. But you know, like I bought Milo Goes to College probably at the end of 80. I think it came out at the end of 82, so maybe early 83. I got it. They were on the cover of Flipside magazine. It was like a Los Angeles magazine that was famous at the time. And that record just blew me away. His drumming performance on that record is very assured and unique for a, how old was he? He was like 18 or 19. I think he said it was 19. Right. So to be that assured at such an early point of time was like amazing. I mean, he already had a style. And I think the people that were listening back then, it was a much smaller universe, of course. Everybody gave it up for Bill Stevenson, even in 1984. I mean, he was like the next great drummer. After him, people like Reed Mullen from Corrosion of Conformity. I remember he was maybe the next guy that I like got obsessed with drumming wise. It was like, man, this guy is like, you know, also really good, you know. So I think as time went on, people, I guess it was just kind of hard to avoid him, not to avoid him being so influential or not. He's just, you know, he was like such a good drummer. And I think a lot of that stuff shows up in not even really the Descendants, but All. You know, like I always thought All was a great band, and they paid the price for not being the Descendants. And they put out all these records. I mean, I can't say that I love every Descendants or All record equally, but like they did some crazy shit. And his drumming was really good on like All Roy Says and let's see what else. All Roy Saves. That's a strange record. Everything was just, I don't know. I feel like he deserves the props he gets, but I guess I was coming out of it from a different angle because I'm as old as him and the rest of the Descendants, you know. So yeah, I guess I was kind of more of a peer than, but he was as big of an influence to me as like George Hurley from the Minutemen.
Yep.
Reed, like we said, there's a bunch of guys.
Well, it's funny. Like we were talking about that with Dave Mello, how like a lot of us have our, excuse me, we have our drummers that we're influenced by, right? That we grew up listening to, but ultimately I think most of us end up being more influenced by the people that we're playing shows with, sitting side stage and watching your buddies play.
Exactly.
Which is something, it's funny is, you know, I'm 44, been playing drums, you know, on and off, I guess, since I was 12. And I never really realized how much like my local drummers and my friends have probably impacted my playing and my passion for drumming, maybe just as much, if not more than some of the big hitters, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you know, Raleigh always had a nice little scene going on for several decades. And there's always been kick-ass drummers that have come out of this region and 3 hours away in Richmond, Virginia. Also, I mean,
oh yeah,
he's not a punk rock drummer, but there was this guy named Steve Shelton, who was the drummer for this band Confessor, who were like this art metal band that was totally pioneering. They were like peers of COC too around that time. And Confessor and Steve they were just completely ahead of the curve. It's really brainy, hard to figure out music, but totally, like, I guess they would call it math rock, but it's not even really so much that. It's just metal. And I learned about cymbal grabs and triplets and all kinds of shit from Steve. And he's like, you know, you ask anybody around here, they'd say Steve's like one of the best drummers. So he was always really inspiring. There was a band called Honor Roll that I always liked a lot. I saw them so many times growing up here, like when I moved out here. They had two drummers. Steve Schick was the first drummer, and then Seth Harris was the second one. And both of those guys were huge influences on me. And I saw Honor Roll as many times as I saw Corrosion of Conformity. Honor Roll were the best band in the South at that time. They were just unbeatable. And those guys were like amazing drummers. So
everyone out, if you haven't heard of them, everyone out listening should definitely check it out.
Honor Roll is a really good band. For sure. Yeah.
Matthew.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I don't want to overtalk.
I was just, I know. So some of these episodes, I'm just kind of here because Christian is like, he knows everything about who we're interviewing. And so he's like a kid in a candy store. And so I let him have his moments, which is great. But I'll add in some things every now and then. But no, I was just thinking about what you were talking about, friends influencing you just as much, if not more than like your heroes, I guess you could say. And I mean, I was just thinking about that while you're talking. I was like, yeah, because you can like talk to them, and you can call them up anytime you want, and you can. It's just the way it is, and you can't really do that with your heroes, but
Yeah,
um, but
some
but but like in the punk scene, it's like almost easy to meet your heroes.
yeah, because sometimes the people that are your heroes end up becoming your friends. There's
And
like
that's
that.
happened to me too.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like there is some sort of drummer kind of. I think most drummers are cool with each other for the most part because it's. I still to this day have not seen any drummer that didn't have something that they do that's uniquely their own that they can offer to the world. And it does. They don't even have to be a great drummer. Every drummer has something that they do that's uniquely their own. And I think other drummers kind of respect that and look out for each other. I don't think I've really seen a lot of competition or whatever. I think
Right.
people are just glad to play drums and want to be excited about what they're doing and in the environment they're doing it in.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah,
What
for
is
sure.
that? What is that unique thing that you think you may have? I know it may be hard to talk about yourself, but
I don't know. I mean, it's like I maybe this is a built-in mechanism, but so I don't of being humble and being part of that is being sort of self-appreciating, and that's probably done so you don't look like you have a big head because
I understand.
I would never say I'm a really good drummer. I'm really
Same.
good, but I do think I'm adaptable, and it just ends up seeming like whatever I do ends up sounding like no matter who I'm playing with. So and I think I'm just a product of the 4 or 5 people that I listen to the most. I mean, of course, I love people like I'll talk about these 3 later, but I want to defend Phil Rudd from AC/DC, Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, and of course Ringo Starr from the Beatles. That little known band, the Beatles. And
Never heard of them.
people shit on those guys so much, like drummer nerds, and it's like that's like the hardest drumming. If you know anything about drumming, keeping a beat and being steady and serving the song is so much harder than like showing off and
Less is more.
Less is more. And every time I hear any drummers talk about how lucky Ringo Starr was or Phil Rudd how boring he is, it's like you guys just don't get it. It's like maybe you're not there yet, but it's like
also try to picture AC/DC sounding different. It wouldn't be right.
It wouldn't be right. I'm going to leave this friend's name out of this conversation, but he told me one time that he thought that Phil Rudd was a boring drummer and that they would be so much better with a Keith Moon style drummer. And I was like, that's the fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like no, that's because AC/DC is about precision and economy and like a big angry machine lunging at you.
Yeah, the Who are very loose, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Keith Moon in his prime is as good of a drummer as anybody, and he has a very unorthodox style, But to say that he should be in AC/DC is it's just wrong, So anyway, having said that about those 3 drummers, I'd say the people that really influenced me would be watching punk rock and metal drummers because I always liked heavy metal. Never thought heavy metal was some heavy metal, just like some punk rock. I was really into the drummer for the band Voivod, Michel Langevin, otherwise called Away. He has a really unique style. He was a big influence. George Hurley of the Minutemen was a huge influence. Bill Stevenson, of course. Reed Mullen, especially back then, was a phenomenal drummer. The drummer for De Croizen. I mean, these are all my old man influences. Like I'm 59, so it's like I'm sort of a product of the era I grew up in. So the drummer for De Croizen is Eric Tunison. He's a great drummer too. So I would say I would just roll all that in, big ball, and spit it out, and then you got, I guess, some sort of version of what I do.
Well, I mean, what I noticed with your drumming, whether it was excuse me, was Scared Straight or Magpie, is it's very like hi-hat heavy. And I guess my question is that something that you do like in the mixing process? Does that sounds appealing to your ear, or are you just really laying it into them while you're playing?
Oh, there's no planning. I think it's a happy or unhappy accident. You know, it just one reason for that also might be because like I play weird. I'm left-handed, but I play open-handed on a right-handed kit, and instead of having a right cymbal on, you know, the right side of you, the way most right-handed people have, I have an ice bell.
Okay.
Ice bell for like 30 years, and then I'll have the right cymbal next to the hi-hat, and then I'll have a crash cymbal up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe because of that setup, maybe that's why it seems like there's a lot of
well, you can get more swing on it that way.
Yeah, but when I air drum like a left-handed person playing a left-handed kid. You know, like so.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you know, it's like you know, if you air drum along to some of your favorite songs, it comes up. I don't play the way I normally play air drums. I play
right
because it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, I swing my bass way down low, but when I play an air bass, it's always it's always up high.
Like
I did want to talk about Juice Glass.
Juice Glass
from the Magpie. Again, I say this all the time, but I haven't said it to you. Is often I think I have questions when they're more observations and or statements. But I think you picked a really like interesting way of accenting the notes, like especially in the first couple measures of the song. Like your instincts when to open the hi-hats, I think usually like as soon as you close it, for myself personally, that's probably when I would have chosen like to open it. And that kind of goes back to what you said too, of like everyone is going to bring their own unique thing to it. And I always thought through whether it was with Double Negative, which thank you for sending me, by the way. I fucking love that stuff.
Thanks. The Double Negative stuff is like some of my favorite drumming. It was like me trying to act like a young person. Like, yeah, I can still keep up. I can still do it. You know.
The only shame with that was there's no track listing. So normally I would have gone through it track by track and like written down all these things to ask you all these questions about it. But
it's like one long song.
I like it, man. Well, that will. I'm sorry, I did a bunch of yard work today. So, right. Being an old man is great. The intro to Redshift.
Yeah.
I'm okay. So it's not like I've asked some people questions. They're like, dude, I did that 30 years ago. I have no idea. But you start that with like a little gallop.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking cool because it sounds like it's just, I don't know if it's like a little bit behind, but it just created such a cool dynamic.
It's a little behind.
And
there's a slight hesitation. The Double Negative record is sort of my version of hardcore 80s hardcore punk rock drumming as interpreted through a person that's old enough to have been there. And like there's a lot of those drummers, most of them were from a lot of bands were just kick-ass drummers, really good. So I just sort of tried to play like in that style, which was very easy to do because that's what I kind of grew up around and that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No. That's exactly. I mean, this is the stuff I live for. I love hearing this stuff. So that was mostly like an intentional.
Yeah, I mean, like Double Negative was basically like, you know, at the time, all of us were all older dudes from the 80s, and I forgot how long ago it was. To tell you the truth, I want to give you a date, but I don't really know.
For Double Negative.
Double Negative. I think it was like
2007
ago, maybe. I don't know.
The one that you sent me said 2007.
Okay,
I
2007.
believe.
That's still a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But back then there was like, you know, I think we talked about this on the phone where it's like a lot of my younger peers, like you were talking about Bill Stevenson being sort of this obligatory influence on a lot of people. And for younger people at that time, I just thought younger punk rock people were into like, the Epitaph and Fat Records kind of universe. And I never, aside from Propagandy, who I love, there's not, I came to that way later. During all that stuff coming out, I was not listening to that kind of stuff, wasn't really paying attention, So I just kind of thought that every young person that played that kind of music was into Epitaph, Fat Records kind of stuff, which would have made sense because that was what was going on for the generation after, But these kids in Raleigh had this like punk rock house party thing going on, and all their bands sounded like they were influenced more by stuff from my time, I guess. And I didn't know that. So we saw a few of these shows, and it was cool. The people in Double Negatives were just like, we should put a band together just solely so we can play one of these house parties. It was just a goof to like play to these kids. We basically, we pandered to them to be a part of their scene, and then it just kind of got carried, because we knew a thing or two about playing that style of music. We were there, and we were all in bands back then. Scared Straight. Our singer Kevin was in a band called Subculture from North Carolina. Great band. Had a few records out. The other two guys, Scott and Justin, also did stuff. So we're all a product of that stuff. So when we got together and do that, it was really easy and natural to play that sort of stuff because, and it worked out really well. For the first couple of years, it seemed like we couldn't make a wrong move. And eventually we did, but
I just love that like, was it the first song? It's almost like 35 seconds of feedback before the song comes in. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like we at the time that record came out, we had a pretty good we had like a good underswell of people in that universe that really liked that record. And, it was named after a fall record, The Wonderful and Frightening World of Double Negative. That was Scott, our guitar player. He also thought up the logo, which is a great 80s hardcore logo.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
So I'm very proud of that stuff. And I look back and I feel, I don't have a lot of stuff I've done, regardless of how much people have heard it or how little, that I'm like ashamed of or anything, So anyway, Double Negative was just like a product of all my influences from back then. Besides the people I mentioned, we're just trying to pander to these kids and play 80s hardcore by older 80s hardcore people.
Job well done. I would say it was a success. Can we talk a little bit about Scared Straight?
Yeah.
Because that eventually, for people that don't know, went on to be 10 Foot Pole, which eventually turned into Pulley as well. So did you go to school with Scott and those guys, or how did you?
I met Scott and Dennis Jagger. Dennis Jagger was in Scared Straight and 10 Foot Pole. And then I guess when they parted ways with Scott, he became the singer for 10 Foot Pole after Scott formed Pulley with a few other guys I was friends with, Mike Harder. Didn't go to school with Scott. I met Scott and Dennis at a Battle of the Bands at the Simi Valley Holiday Roller Rink, probably in 1983 or maybe 84. It was probably 83. And I never had. It was the first time I saw actual kids playing punk rock in my town, and I wanted to be friends with them. So and I drew. So I think I drew something for them to audition to be their friend. And luckily they accepted me, And then I hung out with them and whatever, and they went through a few lineup changes. And, I didn't really have tons of friends growing up going to school. So it was like finding some like-minded people afterwards. And Scott and Dennis were the first ones. And I've been friends with Scott. I'm still friends with Scott, up until this day. But we never went to school together. I was like, I think a year older or whatever. But, they just asked me to play drums when their last drummer couldn't do it. It was like sort of toward the end of 84. And I was like, yeah. And it was very exciting. We did like a single and did some touring. And, time back then, it seemed like it lasted forever. But it was a really short amount of time. It was like less than a year of Scared Straight stuff, but it seemed like it was 5 years because that's what time seems like back then.
Yep. Yeah, I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday. Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it very much so makes sense. So recording wise with them, were you on Fight Back?
I wrote the lyrics for Fight Back.
Really?
I wasn't on Fight Back.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
we all read Maximum Rock and Roll back then, and like, I guess maybe I thought I could write lyrics, so I just basically followed the party line of Maximum Rock and Roll lyric writing and just wrote some stupid shit. And I think I wrote, I'm not on, that's You Drink, You Drive, You Die, right? That's that Mystic record, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what's the other one? It was like Slimy Valley instead of Simi Valley. Or...
That's a compilation that included, I don't think I'm on that. I'm on like the first 7-inch. I'm on like, there's some covers.
Okay.
I ended up on some other Mystic records. One of them was like a cover of Born to Be Wild, the Steppenwolf song, but the whole version.
Jeez. I could have sworn that Stand Up was you because all the hi-hat work in it.
The drummer, God, what's his name? He replaced me. Oh my God, I forgot. Tim Williams. He was a friend of the bass player Eric. They lived in nearby Newbury Park, and Eric got Tim when I basically quit the band to stay on the East Coast and just hang out with COC. And they got Tim and did a bunch of stuff right away. And then I met him.
It's funny too, because there's 2 different versions of that. The recording's out. And one of them has that little hi-hat roll in the intro, and the other one kind of ditches it. So it's just funny of like listening to everything else that you've done. And being more of a hi-hat heavy drummer, I'm very surprised to hear that wasn't you. I'm a little shocked. And
it's not me. And Tim was more of a Stuart Copeland kind of drummer. He had some style, and he was really good. So I guess that was a happy accident. I'm only on the 7-inch and the Born to Be Wild cover, and I think that's it.
I mean, what those guys went on to do, that's like, I mean, having a foot in the door early like that's pretty fucking cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, like again, like by '86, I had quit. I had moved away, and I hung out with Scott and the rest of the band until I moved away, which was like spring of '86. And I would come back and visit, but for the most part, I was gone, and that was sort of before all that. It was way before the Fat Records Epitaph kind of thing. There was Rich Kids on LSD, and they were clearly the best band from the area, easily, back then. But even that version of the band didn't have like that little Joe guy playing bass. It was Vince, the other guy.
So this is funny.
That was
Matt...
the version of the band that I loved, which is not taking anything away from, Rock and Roll Nightmare. That stuff's great and everything. But they were like the best band in our area. And I know that Fat Mike and the rest of NoFX obviously liked them a lot and looked up to them a lot.
I somehow managed to score a test press of Rock and Roll Nightmare.
Yeah. And
I won't open it. It's going to stay sealed forever. I don't do that with a lot of records.
I mean, also that record came out during the time when, basically that was sort of when hardcore punk rock for the people in my universe, that was when it was over. People, and by the time I moved, there was so much other stuff coming out that had nothing to do with punk rock or hardcore that I liked. That was like an offshoot of it, but just wasn't, whatever. And I think that's what led to things opening up for those guys to form 10 Foot Pole. I mean, 10 Foot Pole is obviously a much more accomplished band, songwriting-wise, production-wise. It's a totally different thing. And then after that, suddenly there was this atmosphere where people could actually sell records and make money and go, it's like, and that stuff, the music obviously sounded different, but that stuff was not going on when I was living out there, that just came later. And, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's how it was. So,
right.
So, those guys in 10 Foot Pole, they had a nice thing going, and I guess they, I think Scott always had his baseball career. Everyone knows Scott Radinsky has had this lengthy baseball career, and he had it very young. Like, there were people checking him out, scouts, when we were playing shows, in 1985. He had a great he was a lefty with an amazing pitching arm. That much I know. You know? 'Cause because I don't know Scott from his baseball career. I just know him from living down the street from me and hanging out with him and opening mail and listening to mangled demos that people sent us across the world with our double cassette deck player, that kind of thing.
It's funny because I only know of his baseball because of his music.
Right. And I guess like what happened was the rest of the band they just wanted to try to make it a full-time thing, and they thought Scott was holding him back, and maybe that was a good idea, maybe that isn't. And I mean, I wasn't there for any of that, but
I mean, they're still going as far as I know.
They're still going.
Worked out.
I still talk to Dennis here and there. Scott formed Bully with my other friend Mike Harder and some other people. I think Jordan Burns, who I knew from his other band, The Grimm. He ended up joining them and stuff like that. So I always looked out for what they were doing and listened and stuff, but I just wasn't a part of that universe. Right. I didn't understand how we played shows with NoFX early on, Scared Straight. They were, and I don't think they would argue this, but they were fucking horrible. They were not a good band. And eventually they became a really good band. I got to give it up to them. But at the time, if you had told me that out of all the bands back then, if you told me that NoFX would be the band that would have, taken off and done whatever they've done, I would have totally not believed it at all. Not even close.
Who do you think would have been if NoFX hadn't?
I just can't really pick them because, I think the reason why I always reference the Descendants and all is because I always quietly thought All on the Descendants, especially the All stuff, I think I thought I didn't really need to hear Green Day, and I'm not trying to be mean about that because, again, I just wasn't listening to that. I mean, they're good, but that stuff exploded commercially, and that's great for them or whatever, but I just always reference the Descendants and All. And especially the Descendants comeback record, Everything Sucks. That was a great comeback record. And the All records, not all of them, but most of them are really good. And I just always thought All was easily, and the Descendants were the top of the line of that universe, but they were never really part of that universe. They never got they never got the attention that some of the other bands got. But I guess I was kind of a musical snob, I guess. So
I wonder how much more of it was. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was gonna say I think some of those bands that are just really technically good, they get overlooked because you actually have to listen to them, and a band like Green Day comes out, you don't really have to listen to Green Day. You hear it and it sounds good to you, but All you dissect, you want to sit there and dissect, and I feel like that doesn't really work well. It's almost like did you ever see the not the Naked Gun, but Police Squad, the series they had? It didn't.
I feel like I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, you had to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You had to watch it because there was things going on, and then they cut it out because people didn't get it. Because you actually had to pay attention and watch it.
Well, I think maybe some of the reason why stuff like All didn't blow up the way some of these other things blow up is that, like you said, you got to take the time to actually listen to it. And it's it's not really cookie cutter music. I'm not saying that everything that All did was successful. I mean, there were some songs that are, but they're pretty consistent, and the music's weird. In everything that all the members play, those three guys, Carl, Stefan, and Bill, they kind of created this universe that's their sound, their thing. Very similar to how Buzz and Dale of the Melvins have their thing, or the Voivod guys, Michelle and the late Piggy Dennis D'Amore, the guitar player.
Yep.
That I think Stefan used to sound a lot like occasionally, weird atonal chordings and whatever. It's just, I think it's more for people that are musicians that actually want to take the time
100%.
to listen to it and go, whoa, that's that's part of why some metal is really good, because there's always something crazy going on in the better aspects of like heavy metal that makes you stop and go, whoa, what was that? What did that person just do? You got to rewind it and listen to like, what the fuck is this? And it's not for everybody, but I think there's the listener of music, and then there's the musician, the listener that also plays music, that maybe they can just sort of appreciate these things and take the time to listen more so than some other people that.
Well, I think
For sure.
it is almost a matter of like subtlety, right? Like I always at the tattoo shop, I always have music playing, and I'll put on, I think my favorite all record is it's Scott Reynolds records. Allroy. I can't remember which one it is now.
It's Allroy's Revenge, and then Allroy Saves, and then the last one was Percolate, which is kind of a departure record.
Yeah. So that song Box. Like,
yeah,
that's on Revenge.
So but like, people won't really pick up on that, right? Because it's so technical, and it sounds wrong, but it's still right. But then to like I always feel so like pretentious saying the average listener, but you can put on Riches to Rags by RKL, and people hear Dave's double bass and go, holy shit, or was that Bomber at that point? But like there is some of that music that like RKL was sort of that right kind of flashy that I think dude, those little bass runs Little Joe was doing, they're fucking insane. But he's playing 100 notes, but then you have Carl who's doing these, finger style, and they're very smooth, and there's not a hard transition between notes, and there's still crazy bass lines, but it's not as right in your face as it was. And I enjoy all of that too. And I think you and I come from that similar part of the metal world as well.
I mean, like, I agree with all that. I mean, I wasn't like some, sometimes you meet people when it seems like they never really liked music until they heard this one thing, and then they're like punk rock. Like, I always hated all that hippie shit. I hated Led Zeppelin. It's like, I loved all that stuff. I just thought I just liked whatever I liked. And then when punk rock came along, I didn't like get a mohawk and then get rid of every record I had before, because this is the new thing. I'm a punk rocker now, blah, blah, blah. I never understood that. I just thought it was like, oh, this is just more really cool music for me to enjoy. I never sold all my rock records or whatever records because it wasn't punk rock or hardcore. And I know a lot of people did. In time, they all bought back
right
records because, it's like, it's just more, you like something, you like something.
Yeah. Well, I know that makes me have a question for both of you, but I'll go with you first, Brian, since you're our guest. What was the first album you bought like with your own money? Like, not a gift, not a Christmas present. Like, what was the first thing that you went out and was like, this is it for me?
I bought a Jackson 5 record called Stand that I think wasn't actually an official record. It came out at some weird second tier label. And I think it was them covering, oddly enough, with Sly Stone dying. I think it was them covering a Sly Stone song. I think. The next record was a K-Tel record. This is like 1975.
Yeah.
I'm like 9 years old. So I bought a K-Tel record. Oh, this is, records back then were like $3, whatever. And then after that, Kiss. 1976. And they were the gateway portal for people in my age group to discover rock music. They were kind of like the Beatles, impact-wise, of people from my generation, I guess. So those are the first three records I bought.
What about you, Matt?
I was just thinking about that. Well, yeah, I'm 45, so I'm much younger. And I kind of feel like I got into it a little late. I think the first like album I bought with my own money was probably Pearl Jam 10.
I remember when that came out.
Yeah. It was like Pearl Jam 10 and like maybe REM Monster or something like that.
There you go.
And that would have been like 93, 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
92 maybe.
You gotta start somewhere. Like, I'm those ageist people that thinks well, you guys really missed out because it's like you can't help when you
Yeah.
were born. Then there's always
Well, and
something.
see, I have an older half sister. She's 7 years older than me, and she was like a goth chick and like
Yeah.
into punk rock and The Cure and all that stuff. And she bought records all the time. So I would always hear all those records. She was listening to Descendants back in the 80s, and I was exposed to it, but I didn't understand it at the time. So I was around all that stuff, but it didn't really shape me at that time. But when I turned about 13 or 14, I started to figure out what I liked. And I think that's kind of true with a lot of people we talk to about that age. Some a lot earlier.
Oh yeah, dude, I was straight up like hip hop. The first record I ever bought with my own money was Fat Boys, Crushing. And then from there I went to Public Enemy, which is funny is you, and I'm sure all of us and everyone listening can kind of relate to this, where Public Enemy, absolutely a hip hop group, but they were still a fucking punk group.
It was a punk rock. It takes Nation of Millions to hold us back. That's as punk rock and record as anything I can think.
And then to think I'm walking around at 10, 11 years old wearing the shirt with a fucking cop in the crosshairs of a rifle. Like I'm at a family reunion just wearing this T-shirt. I have no idea.
It was also intelligent. It was like rebellious and intelligent. And it was it was another version of punk rock. I always think punk rock is just like, punk rock's not really a style of music. It's just kind of like, to me, it's like an attitude. And people like to argue over what's punk rock and what's not. And they've done it for the last 40 years or so.
I'll say it once, I say again, arguing over what's punk is the least punk thing.
It's just like all that gatekeeper shit. That stuff didn't really start till the internet came out. But it's, it's like, if you like what you like and you think it's good, then it's good, and all that gatekeeping stuff is just, well, I don't know if you're cool enough to like this thing or that you understand this thing. I mean, if you like it, you like it.
But everyone had a life before punk.
Sure.
Right. So to assume that like there's a person out there that just never enjoyed any like TGIF or fucking watching Urkel say, did I do that or whatever shit you grew up with? Like everyone had a life before this stuff. Like, and it's fine. Like
I barely remember Urkel. He's that little black kid with the nerdy black kid.
Yes.
That silly stuff. Yeah.
Well, we're typically influenced by what our parents listened to at first. And I mean, mine was like classic rock and country.
My parents had some music, but like Rubber Soul by the Beatles on the 8-track, and another really big record was Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. That's like his double album from 1976. That's a motherfucker of an album.
I love playing drums along to those records.
Contusion, that sort of jazz fusion instrumental. That was a very influential record for me. That Songs in the Key of Life. I just thought it was a great double album. It was so much good stuff on it.
So I wanted to ask, whenever I started playing drums, I had like a speaker and a stereo record player, a tape record player combo. And I would, either play to the radio or play to, my favorite tape, Nirvana or whatever it was. And this was back whenever one speaker would be louder than me playing. That's how I learned how to play. How did you learn how to play? Like at the beginning, did you do something similar, or was it just kind of on your own?
I played records, and I would just arrange pillows on a couch and just sort of get some chopstick.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really pick up a drumsticks and play a real drum kit till I was a late bloomer. I didn't really start playing till I was like 9th or 10th grade. I wasn't even thinking that I could even play a bass drum at the time. I was like, I'm never going to be able to use my foot to play a bass drum. And I tilted it on the side, kind of like Velvet Underground's Maureen Tucker, how she would like play, this really primitive, weird style. I just listened to records it was like Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Kiss, stuff like that. Led Zeppelin, of course. And then by the time I got behind the drum kit, I found that I could do that stuff.
Mm.
And I was like, I have coordination between my foot, my hands. You know how it is, like when you first start playing, you either know right away that you kind of do it, or you have to really work at it because it doesn't come as naturally as it does for some people.
Yeah, I was not a natural drummer.
All that listening, I was like it seemed like I was a natural drummer. I mean, not to say I was playing like Neil Peart in 3 months or whatever, but oh yeah, Rush. I loved Rush, of course, at the time. Farewell to Kings, 2112, Hemispheres, all that stuff. I unashamedly have always liked that period of Rush, and that was about technically the highest level of playing of what I knew back then from what I was listening to. So yeah, I just played chopsticks on pillows on couches and played along to records, and then that lasted a couple of years, and then eventually got a drum kit and was like, oh, I can actually sort of play. So
yeah, that's similar to mine too. I would use glue sticks.
I would eat them.
I would like if I didn't have chopsticks, like what my mom had a bunch of chopsticks, like plastic chopsticks, and then but they were kind of small, so I had to get like coat hangers. How there was always like that white cardboard.
Yep, I did that too.
Pull out. I would do that, and that would last 2 seconds because they would bend or whatever.
Duct tape them up.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, drumsticks were kind of, where I lived in like a small town in Texas, and drumsticks just weren't available.
Yeah.
We didn't have music stores anywhere.
This is a funny story. When I got my first drum set ever, I saved up money from my job at McDonald's. That was my first job I ever had at McDonald's. And I was so green that I didn't know that cymbals didn't come with the drum set. I just thought that they just gave you cymbals. I don't know why I thought that.
What a steal. Yeah.
I know. So I was like, oh, I got these drums. And they were like these Remo PTS drums, pre-tuned series, which meant the heads would lock in to the rim.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
What's funny? They sounded really good.
Yeah.
They didn't. I don't think they really make them anymore. But that's the kind of drum kit you'd buy in 1982 or 83 if you couldn't really afford to buy a real good drum set. So I got those, and then I was embarrassed because I didn't know that the cymbals didn't come with it. So I took like a pipe and I hit a pipe with oh, this will be my cymbal. And eventually I saved up money. And
so what you're saying is you take credit for Slipknot.
I've never
confirmed or denied.
I'll take credit for it. Sure.
I have something kind of similarly funny though. Like when my dad bought me my first drum kit, I don't know if he told me this or what, but I thought all the cymbals went on upside down. So I had my crash cymbals up like a bowl shape forever.
Oh, I did that too because it looked cool.
It did.
It looked cool.
I probably saw it on TV or something.
I used to hang my ride upside down off the boom stand, put it down so the felt was on the bottom.
Oh,
I just thought it looked cool.
When I bought my first pair of hi-hats, I didn't even I was like, well, if I just split them up and have them on 2 stands, it's like I have 2 cymbals, so I'll just do that.
It's great, but that's one of the things too that I love about it. I can guarantee that the 3 of us could sit down behind each other's kits and go like, what the fuck? Why would you put this here? Why is this this way? Like it's such a unique thing. Like you playing open-handed. We talked with Mike Falumley from Smoking Popes, and he had an Alkaline trio, and he said he never saw someone play, so he just thought that's and one of his peers played that way, and he thought that's just how everyone played. And then he got out there in the scene and was like, why are people like crossing their arms over? So it's such a unique instrument. I really enjoy hearing like everyone's stories about how like this came to be.
Yeah, there were, it's kind of funny because there was nobody around me at the time when I was trying to figure out how to do this stuff to tell me I was doing something wrong or even something right. You know, I just didn't. You know, like ideally, because I'm left-handed, I should be, you know, like there's this guy Cody Willis, great drummer. Been in a bunch of bands. He's back in the Melvins as a second drummer. He's ferocious. He's a lefty. He plays like that. And I've seen some other people do that, and that's what I should do. But I never put it together. It just seemed like it was easier to naturally play open-handed. And I've seen, you know, there's a good amount of open-handed drummers that play the same way, but it's not as common as, you know.
Just a left-handed. Well, I asked Mike why he never like just played a left-handed kit. He goes, well, I'm left-handed, but if I'm going to kick someone, I'm still going to do it with my right foot. So that explained why he played a right-handed kit, because the coordination with the right foot was there, which is.
Yeah, my left foot's good for the hi-hat going up and down, but I never learned how to use that. You know, it would be like starting over. I mean, I should maybe try to do that, but you know.
I think playing open hand looks cool as shit, because you guys, what did Bill call it, the snare drum cage or whatever, because you could just
snare
bash.
He told me yeah, so like people when they play across like this, they don't play their snare as hard, and then whenever they go to the ride, it's like pow pow. So as an engineer, you know, and all that stuff, he has to deal with that. So I played his drum kit last year at this thing called Groveridge.
Okay.
I played Mr. Bass, and I helped him set his kit up and everything. And his hi-hats are like up by his rack tom and like about this far from his left crash. Or like he has two crash cymbals on the left. And I mean, they're only like about that far apart. And so he plays his hi-hat way out here and his snare way back here, so he doesn't ever have to deal with that when he's mixing.
Like, because his arm's way up here instead.
Yeah. If you watch him, he's way out here like that. So it makes sense. It makes total sense. And now every time I play drums, every time I record, I think about that, because I can't play like that. So I have to play how I play. And I always try to hit the snare a little bit harder, so I'm not I'm not hitting it harder when I go to the ride or something like that.
Right, I hear you. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about, is it Polvo? Am I saying it right?
Polvo, yeah.
Polvo.
Real quick.
So you were that was what, 96 and 97?
Yeah,
or 97, 98. Because you were on Shapes, right?
Yeah, Shapes is the album I'm on. Polvo were like this long-standing kind of, I guess, indie rock kind of band that came out of the Raleigh, Chapel Hill area. And in the early 90s, they were like a pretty popular local band, and they, you know, would go on tours, and it was the climate of indie rock, like post-hardcore, but not punk rock and not Fat Epitaph, the stuff that was selling lots of records. It was not that kind of universe. It was more of an indie rock kind of, you know, like their guitars were kind of tuned weird. A little Sonic Youthy. They were accused of sounding like Sonic Youth, and they were like the best band from, as a listener for me, from our area for back then. It was like after punk and hardcore died, and you know, Confessor broke up, and then all the stuff came out of Chapel Hill, and you know, a lot of it was pretty good, but Polvo were like head and shoulders above everything else, I thought. And then their drummer, Eddie Watkins, quit. And the rest of the guys, you know, they knew me from the scene, or whatever you want to call it. And I think I played shows with them and various other bands I was in at the time. There was a band called Willard. There was a band called Shiny Beast. Shiny Beast had records out on Boner Records from San Francisco. So they asked me to join and play on this record, and that was a real big thrill. And that led to like a month-long tour across the country. And then we got back. It was very successful. And then they decided to break up after we got back from this really successful tour. People really liked it. You know, the other three guys had very mellow relationship, and just, well, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. It's like, well, okay. Then that would be it. And so we played a couple of final shows, and then they reformed 10 years later with a friend of mine, another great drummer from this area called Brian Quast. So people will, if they're familiar with this area, they might know who Brian is. And he joined the band, and they put out a few more records, and kind of faded away. But that was a great experience because I got to play on some of their really good songs, and they like to jam and link things together.
What was the song? Everything in Flames.
Everything in Flames.
So that's funny too. Is I've always thought this was interesting of how music travels, because I mean I'd heard of Scared Straight. I've listened to it before, but sure. I Polvo, I don't know how I ended up with it, in upstate New York at the time period of, probably in like the 90s. So it's just funny, like out of all those bands that you were in, that's the one I was the most familiar with, and that album. So yeah, it's strange. So the Everything in Flames, I noticed too, and it makes sense like with the bell now, that there's almost like this in the Kiss influence, maybe that's it, but you kind of, there's like that, whether you want to call it like slow down ska or the kind of that disco that
that beat,
which is also in the one of the two Scared Straight songs that I thought you played on, because that was in one of those. What was the hi-hat one I was talking about there? Anyways,
it's a happy accident.
Yeah, it was, so two different drummers but a very similar pattern. So I thought that was weird. But yeah, I don't. That Shapes album, and you were only on. So this is my nerd shit here. You didn't play on every song on that album, right?
The guitar player, one of the guitar players and songwriters, Ash Bowie, played on. There's a handful of really primitive, barely drums on the record kind of thing, and he played drums on it. He was kind of a drummer, and then it was kind of like 40% him, 60% me, I guess.
It's a great album. It really is a good record.
Everybody hated that record.
Really?
Fucking hated that record when it came out, and then 10 years later went by, and now people like it. But at the time, people were like, "What the fuck is?" Because it was more like classic rock sounding. There was like some classic rock elements that the other guitar player, Dave, brought to the band, and we learned covers that Dave wanted to play on that tour. We played Sparks by the Who. We did another Who song, Circles. We learned we did Freedom by Jimi Hendrix. We played the whitest version of Freedom ever. It was all right, but it was just like, the other three guys from Polvo are like jockey basketball players, and I'm like, this pudgy Jewish guy that doesn't like sports. And,
technically speaking, you only had one more white guy than Jimi Hendrix did in his band, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, man, I know that, and it's kind of cliche to say this, but rest in peace. I know that you were close with Reed, correct, Mullen?
I was close with Reed. Well, here's the thing about Reed. Reed knew a lot of people over in his lifetime, and there were different versions of Reed. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like if you know about Reed Mullen, you probably know that he had his struggles, especially toward the end of his life. Not too dissimilar to somebody like you have the SNFU skateboard behind you, like yes. Ken from Chai Big from SNFU. Obviously he went down kind of a similar path.
That film about him was heartbreaking.
Yeah, well, Reed had some of those same experiences where he just couldn't control himself. When I was friends with Reed, it was during the version of Reed that was like a punk rock promoter in Raleigh that brought bands to North Carolina and would drive around and pick up kids, bring them to the shows he was promoting. Like, who would do that, But he was like really excited about doing that stuff, and that was the version of Reed I knew at the time. And he was a very generous, helpful person, and if he liked you, he wanted to help you out. There was a little scene drama back then because not everybody in that universe, there were some people that were jealous because, he did it, and he was at the peak of his powers then, and we hadn't really been friends since the end of the '80s, to be honest. But I'd run into him, and it would be nice. It'd be fine. It was no big deal. And then towards the end of the last 10 years or so, he just kind of went off on this tangent. And he knew a lot of other people then that I never really knew. And there was actually recently a kind of a, not a funeral, but a memorial 5 years later. And it was interesting watching. It was mainly old people like me, but there were some other people from like later on that knew him, and everybody was kind of comparing notes and whatever. And he was like a, phenomenal drummer, like Animosity, and even the first record, Eye for an Eye.
Absolutely.
He got good. He was in this band called No Labels that was a sister band of Corrosion of Conformity in 1982 and 83, and they recorded this demo called the Jane Doe demo. It's like 15 or 16 songs, and it's fucking awesome. And it's never come out. Apparently, somebody keeps threatening to put it out, but it's like this. Now it's like what, 83, like 50 years ago or something. It's this amazing, recording. And Reed had played drums for maybe a year, and he's like this blistering tornado, and it's fucking fast. It's like, he's up there with. He was a great drummer anyway, but the way people like Bomber from RKL, or I don't know. Let me think. Bomber's a good example.
Yes.
He was kind of like that good, that quickly. He was just a fucking he was something, really, really, really good. Just blisteringly fast, very technical, and just he had like a big Clive. I'm sure you guys like Iron Maiden, maybe Clive Burr, yep. Nico McBrain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was really into Clive Burr. Who was on the first 3 Iron Maiden records. Clive Burr was a huge influence. And that's kind of like Reed had a drum set that was as big as Clive Burr's, a red Tama kit. And it was, nobody had giant drum kits in punk rock back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
You only had 4 drums. That was all.
Yeah.
I have 4 drums. I'm from the school of thought where it's like, if you stick another rack tom on it, it just fucks everything up for me.
Your hi-hat's got to go way over and everything's off.
Yeah, it's like, and also it's like, I think some people don't realize that you can honestly play anything on a 4-piece, like you don't have to have a bunch of like that seems to surprise people when they like watch people that really.
Well, tonally, there's not a big difference between a 12-inch and a 13-inch rack tom.
Yeah.
I mean, they sound the same.
Yeah. And also the other thing that I noticed that people kind of have backed off on is this idea that the bigger the drums you have, the better they'll sound, and the louder. And it's like, I think we've all learned over time that that's not the case at all. Like it looks cool to have giant drums,
that 24-inch kick. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like that's.
Dude, I have an old 10 by 8 Ludwig tom that I can love the way that thing sounds. It's such a cool, and it stands out in a mix too.
Yeah, it seems to me like the smaller, the more controllable the sound of the drum is, the easier it is to record it.
Right. So what are you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
What are you playing these days for a kit? What's your setup?
It's like a 4-piece. It's a pearl. It's like a silver pearl drum kit. It's the only drum kit I've ever been able to afford brand new. Everything else was something I bought from somebody else. Like I appreciate the idea of being able to pick and choose what drums you like better than others, but I never was able to afford that. I just couldn't. Oh, well, I think the Ludwig's good, but the Slingerland, I've tried out both of them. Like, I've never really had a lot of money, so I can't really, the Pearl drums sound. The Pearl drums, I don't know exactly what it is technically, but they sound good. They still sound good. People have told me they think it sounds good. And it's a 4-piece kit, and I have, let's see, the ice bell on the right side. I have a crash cymbal, a ride cymbal, and my hi-hats. That's it.
Very minimal.
Yeah, minimal. And then, somebody gave me like a new pedal that's really good. And of course, I forgot the name of it. Knowing technical stuff in the drum universe is not really my strongest suit.
Same.
And nothing wrong.
That's all
nothing wrong with
Christian.
that.
Yeah, I just like, and also like going into music store, like drum stores. It was always really, I always felt very embarrassed because I just didn't really technically know anything.
Me too.
I was really insecure. But then you go in there and you see these guys that knew everything, and they were obnoxious and not very good, which is and really
The irony, right?
isn't that weird? It's kind of like they'd be the kind of people that would talk about how good they were, and when people start doing that before you even hear them, they have to tell you that they're good. That's usually the sign of, well, they're probably not very good, and that always was the case.
Are you talking like a Guitar Center, or are you talking just like a little mom and pop?
Guitar Center?
Yeah,
Yeah, more.
They used to be called Cool Guy. Remember that?
Yeah, people that work there are angry, and not everybody, but angry and jealous that other people come in and they're probably less talented to them, but meanwhile they're selling this stuff to these less talented. Should have been me or whatever. It's like I think a Guitar Center shop is a great place to work at if you hate music
and people
and people and you want to show because they know technically what they're selling you, and it's their job to make you feel stupid for asking questions and whatever, and and then some of the customers that come in there are like, for some reason this has happened 2 or 3 times, and I don't know anything about this drummer, but it just always seemed like the most obnoxious drummers that would show up there, and always like that guy that played in the Dave Matthews Band, whatever his name is, Carter or something.
Carter Beauford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you could like set your watch by the 3 or 4 times it was like, well, everyone knows that Carter blah 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 is the best drummer in the world. Hey, can I have some sticks over here? Bring them to me. And then they'll start playing. It's like, this guy's not very good, And they're like, yeah, I'm good. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone knows that these are the same guys that think like Charlie Watts, Ringo Starr, and Phil Rudd suck. It's like,
right.
they're it's like, dude, we can get into that a little bit, because I love pointing out to people that think those guys are terrible how wrong they are all the time.
I agree.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like, I like flashy technical drumming as much as anybody. I like all kinds of drumming, but to single out like Ringo Starr and to say that he's got lucky or that he's, not a good drummer is just fucking ridiculous. And to me, when people say that, it just shows how little they know about drumming.
Well, he played what was necessary. He played what suited the songs, and that's the sign of a good drummer. I can't picture, truth be told, I know this is sort of not the popular opinion, but my father was and is a huge Beatles fan, and he just wanted my brother and I to like it so much that he kind of ruined them for us. You know what I mean?
So that's why that's why you have to not like it. It's like
I still appreciate it. I mean, the Ramones are one of my favorite bands. And what's that old lore that like they wouldn't? Paul McCartney used to check into hotels as Paul Ramone, and Dee Dee was a huge Ramones fan. So I can at least respect the fact that without them, my favorite band could have had a different name.
Well, Tommy Ramone was a guitar player that invented this very simple driving style of playing drums that you got to think of the context of 1975 and 1976. It was like nobody played stripped down music, and it was either Skyrockets in Flight, Afternoon Delight, and mid 70s mellow music, and a lot of the rock bands. It has to be said, by like 70, as the 70s went on, almost all the rock bands that we all worship started to suck. I mean, that's just kind of how it was, Aerosmith, Kiss, if you were around then, and then punk rock comes around, here comes Tommy Ramone with the Ramones, and it's like really exciting for like, you know, and it's super stripped down, and people made fun of that, but you know, they kept listening, and then eventually the Ramones became, you know, one of their favorite bands. It was like this new thing, and that's simple music, and it's very stripped down, and also equally hard to play.
I was about to say that. Like,
Ramones
it is
songs
stripped
are hard
down,
to
but
play.
it's impossible to play all downstrokes for most people, or those quick eighth notes on the hi-hats like that.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the in punk rock drumming? What do you think about the cheat beat? Does that people that try to play that, but they go daka 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 daka?
Oh, like
More
So
like instead of like they go. Daka, daka.
oh, I don't see that too much.
Okay, that was sort of a pet peeve from, I guess, my.
Well, it's
my
hard for
favorite.
us too, because Zoom, as soon as you start playing a rhythm, Zoom doesn't want any music.
Yeah, well,
So it just cuts it. So I heard 2 taps of your fingers and then it cuts everything off. So are you talking about doing like the roll off the hi-hat to make up for like the eighth notes?
No, I'm talking about a straight driving. See, I don't know technically what it is, but
like eighth notes, like Ramones kind of thing, like
more like that. But when they double down on it and make it like a hardcore drum beat, like Poison Idea or fuck.
Are you saying just playing fast but only playing the hi-hat with your snare? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or alternating instead of.
Well, I hate it if they're being lazy. I don't hate it if it's like playing for the song.
Yes. Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah.
I think that's a pet peeve for my generation. I guess that's probably less relatable now. That was something we used to always joke about. We used to when you see some of these guys playing, it looked like they were like cutting steak or something. So we'd always say
That's interesting.
That guy's chopping steak and running the place. It looks like they're like salt.
That's not something I don't think I've really seen very often. I don't know if it kind of died out or what.
It's probably died out.
I'm relearning a bunch of songs from a band I was in 20 years ago, and we're doing like a little tribute to some of the guys that have passed away since then. And after I left, the drummer that took over from me is a metal dude, and he's phenomenal drummer. But I'm playing along to his recordings, and there's a couple songs where he's playing that punk rock beat, but only doing the hi-hats, and it throws me so bad. And when he goes over the ride, he's going ding 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 ding. So when I'm trying to play along with it, I'm like, I think I'm playing an extra note, and I keep fucking it up and getting so mad. And then I stop, and I'm like, okay, but that's there. But he grew up it was a different world of drumming, and it suited well for and it sounded great with the music too. He's like I said, no knock against him. He's a great dude and a great drummer, but just different than what I would have done.
Right. Okay. A better example of trying to make this understood is like you brought up Scared Straight. That's meat and potatoes, punk rock, suburban drumming. Imagine that record, but instead of doubling on the hi-hat, just going don't cut, like like that. That don't cut. That's what I mean about the cheat beat. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
and I think I've heard some of the bands, not all of them. Actually, now it's like everybody that has a band, every drummer is a kick-ass drummer, and for there's very little of that, and I don't know shit about some of these terms like screamo or whatever the fuck it's called, or like the kind of punk rock hardcore where people beat each other up and like a lot of chugging halftime like stuff that I guess is a newer version of hardcore. Fuck. You know what? I just forgot what I was.
It's funny the difference between metal and hardcore sometimes is like tight jeans or basketball shorts.
Well, yeah, but the again, being old, I have to always. I mean, there was always a lot of drummers that came out of metal that were just amazing players, and I, definitely took an influence from a lot of those guys. I just noticed that now almost every band has a kick-ass drummer.
Yeah,
like that's almost like a requirement.
Yep.
Whereas before, you could get away with maybe.
I don't know if you're still playing now currently, but like with Facebook and all this stuff, like I started a drummers Facebook group that kind of blew up.
I'm on it.
Oh, okay, yeah, and it's like, you know, every post there's these like awesome drummers, and I've always been like pretty average at best, and I kind of plateaued, but I'm like, man, like it's like young people, like way young people, and so you start feel I feel a little insecure sometimes, and I have to kind of check myself. I'm like, well, I just played with Down by Law and Face to Face 2 weeks ago, so like I'm okay, but you know what I mean? It's like I don't have those chops, and it's easy to feel insecure.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's totally, I mean, like, I'm very satisfied with my limitations.
I am too. I am now. I had to come to terms with it.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I don't practice on my own. I don't find a lot of, you know, I'm not trying to be like, you know, I'm not knocking that, of course, but, you know, I don't have the time. And, you know, the Magpie is like, we'll do stuff when everybody has time to do it. You know, we're not hopping in a van and we're going to, you know, I don't even know how people do that stuff anymore. I have no idea how people even get anybody to come out to see you.
Yeah, I think festivals and like one-offs are like what people are doing these days.
I don't even, I mean, I'm not knocking festivals. It's a great way to see a bunch of bands and see people, but it's like, that would not be the environment I would want to enjoy seeing a band in. So like, I would actually, now it's getting to the point where I would just assume, just watch some nice footage of some band I like on like YouTube. You know, like, and, you know, maybe smoking a little pot and enjoying that. Like, I just don't want to like see people from the 8,000 like Flag played recently, you know, like I don't want to see that. I mean, they're not going to play tons of shows, and I understand that there's a good paycheck and whatever, but I just don't enjoy that environment. So I think I'd really, I mean, I'm happy for them and anybody else that gets to do that stuff. But for me personally, it just wouldn't be very enjoyable to see anybody in that environment. And also, as strange as it sounds now, I have a very short attention span for like being in an environment like that. Like if I watch a band play, they're playing longer than 40 minutes. If they can't do what they need to do in 40 minutes and just leave you wanting more and get out of there, I think that's the best thing possible. So when you watch people,
I typically go to shows where I know the people and I'm like, can I get on stage? So I don't have to deal with the crowd.
Totally. Like you almost don't want, and this sounds really dumb. I'm not trying to sound dumb, but like I don't want to be I don't want to be amongst the great unwashed. I'm not moshing. I'm not stage diving. I don't like any of that shit. And I never liked any of that stuff.
Me either.
Going back is, you know, I just don't want to, you know, and also I don't want to get sick, you know, COVID, whatever, you know, it's, you know, times are different now. Yeah. I'm glad everybody gets to do it and stuff, but.
Yeah. People are icky these days.
People are very icky. Yes.
People always
we always were.
They always were. Now you actually know.
Yeah.
Sure. You know,
it's funny, man. Is Bouncing Souls came around recently, and I'm good friends with their bass player. So I like went out and hung out, and they played with H2O, and it was a Wednesday night, and they sold out like a pretty big venue around us, and especially for a Wednesday, and it was packed in there. And I have some lung issues. You know, I developed a pretty gnarly germaphobe thing during COVID and stuff like that. So one of my childhood best friends, Brett, who is a talented glass worker, he made this Clash stained glass. Anyways, shameless plug, BW Glassworks. So he is such a ball buster. I fucking love this guy. But he's like, when are you going to go backstage and throw bread at us peasants? And I was like, I'm not going backstage. I'm like, I'm cool, man. Like I'm getting over the germaphobe shit. And as soon as Bouncing Souls started playing and like that place really filled up, I'm like, I'm going backstage now. Like, I can't get out. But it's more of just being like, too much.
I want to stand on stage like you just said. You know, like I don't want to be in the audience. I just want to be on stage and be close to and be able to watch the drummer or watch what's going on. I don't want to be in the audience. I just don't. That doesn't mean I'm saying that I'm too good for that, but it's like I'm too old. I don't even know if it's too old. I just don't have to. I've been to 8 billion shows in my lifetime, and like I just, 40
I
plus
understand.
years of going to shows,
Yeah.
you're just like you get tired of it, be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I understand.
Or I do. I mean, if I was like 20 years old and going to these shows and, taking LSD and getting away from my parents and just running amok at some festival, stage diving and like tripping my balls off, that would be the greatest experience of my young life for sure. But when you're older, it's just not as exciting, I guess.
I got home at 12:30 that night, and it took me like 4 days to recuperate from it. So yeah, it's not a thing for me. But hey, so we're fast approaching 2 hours now. So we usually but that's the thing is this has been well, so much fun.
Yeah, it really has.
Cool.
I've really enjoyed it, and I think that hearing everyone's different perspectives. I know it's soon. I know we haven't even wrapped this one up, but I would love maybe when we do another season to have you come back on and talk about the art aspect, because that's it. We kind of glossed over a lot of the art that you've made and the impact. So I think maybe saving it for a round 2 would be awesome.
That'd be great. I would love to do it. Yeah, art won out over music quite a while ago.
So we usually wrap up with a segment called Questions from My Kids.
Okay.
And full disclosure, I don't read them first. They write them down and I look at them for the first time. So they might be kind of out there.
Okay.
So, all right. So let's see what we got here. So as you know, obviously you did some commission work for my wife for her 40th birthday recently, and my youngest daughter wants to know why I so short.
It wasn't personal. It just ended up being that way because I guess that's how I felt I needed to draw her on that day. Nothing. It was an accident. Just tell her it was an accident.
I tell her she was an accident all the time. I'm just kidding.
My dad told me I was an accident when he passed out drunk.
That's great. No, but seriously, man, they love that drawing. Like I catch at least one of them every day looking at it and smiling, and that was a great gift. So I appreciate you working with me.
Well, I appreciate you hiring me to do that.
Absolutely. All right. What else we got? And obviously, if any of these are too personal, you don't have to answer them. My middle wants to know: do you have kids?
I do. I have a 14-year-old daughter named Willow. Willow is a special needs kid. She has Down syndrome and autism. And I share her with her mom, who lives up the street from where I live with my wife. And Willow's a wonderful, sweet little girl. And she has a stepsister, my wife's daughter. Her name is Annabelle. And Annabelle is a 10-year-old girl, but she's kind of like the big little sister for Willow. She's very sweet with her, but Belle is like a creative genius. Like she knows how to play music, like drums. She has good rhythm. She likes to draw. She likes to paint. I've turned her on to, she was like her mom. My wife got her into like things like Grant Hart of Husker Du.
That's awesome.
She worshipped Grant Hart and Dale Crover from the Melvins when she was like 3 years old. I just grew up loving Queen and Dale Crover and Grant Hart, and in later years we turned her on to things like the Cardiacs from England.
I love the Cardiacs.
The Cardiacs are amazing.
Stephen Edgerton got me hooked on the Cardiacs.
Oh, yeah, and that band from Canada, Sloan.
Yep.
She loves, I mean, I love Sloan too. Sloan are like, they might be the single greatest actual songwriting rock band to ever exist, with this amazing formula of 4 guys that all write, kind of like the Beatles. And they're still a band after they've made it work for 30 years, whatever. And Belle loves Sloan. we just turn her on to stuff. Queens of the Stone Age. She loves Queens of the Stone Age. I like Queens of the Stone Age too. So anyway, yeah. So I have a daughter and a stepdaughter.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that with us. We got to see if we can hook you up with our buddy Steve, who runs a charity called Punks for Autism. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but tons of artists do designs for him. Him and his wife sell them, and they donate all the money. So maybe you guys could link up and you could do a T-shirt.
Put me in touch. I would love to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then okay, so this is for my oldest. Oh, great. She wants to know who your favorite band that you did artwork for was, and of course I had to say save it for another episode. She's undermining me without even knowing.
Gosh, it's hard to say. I mean, there's been some things I've been able to do that just as a fan, I was like, wow, I can't believe I get to do this. And they were both bifocal media t-shirts. And I'll say real quick, one of them was this band Big Star. I'm sure you've heard about Big Star, of course. Yep. Their lone surviving member is their drummer, Jody Stevens. And Jody Stevens waved through an opportunity for me to do a shirt for bifocal media, Charles and Big Star. And that was a real thrill because I love Big Star. I love the first couple records, the Chris Bell solo record. And so it was kind of an honor to be able, like, wow, I get to do this t-shirt for this, like, this cult band that, was never a huge band, but influenced a lot of people. But then the second bifocal media t-shirt of a band that I was honored to do was, there's an Australian band called The Birthday Party. Nick Cave came out of that band. They were very confrontational, ahead of their time band that influenced a lot of people. One of the members of that band that isn't Nick Cave is Mick Harvey, who is also in Nick Cave in the Bad Seed for a long time. And he waved through my feeble request to do a shirt. And I don't think he even really cared one way or another. I mean, but he let us do a t-shirt, and that was also kind of a thrill. So, I would say those two shirts, The Birthday Party and Big Star, just because of how unlikely that ever would have happened. But pretty much everybody else, like Circle Jerks, Descendants, Melvins, Croisen, bands old and new, it's been great to be able to work with all these people and do stuff. We just did a Beyond Possession t-shirt with their drummer Phil, and Beyond Possession were a fucking great band of their era that, a handful of people will give a shit, but
well, it's like when I found that Offenders shirt.
The Offenders,
it's like how many people fucking knew about them, and they're a great band.
It also goes back to like liking music more so than like having a haircut or a style. If you like music, then you more so than some other things, even if it's punk rock, you might know who the Offenders are. It's not going to be a lot of people, but it's still, really good music. And again, it was an honor to be able to either bring some of that stuff to light.
Well, I wouldn't have a shirt if you didn't draw it. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, again, man, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you stay in touch. And we'll let you know when this is coming out. And awesome. I'm a little intimidated because I do all the illustrations of our guests, and now I have to do one of you.
I'm looking forward to it. Please do. I actually I went to the Facebook group this morning in support of Black Flag's new drummer because he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, I saw that.
And also he's a good drummer. He's like, and he's like, that sucks. And it's like, what? This guy gets to play these songs. Let him have it. He's a good drummer. You don't have to like Black Flag now in 2025, but it's like, this guy's a good drummer. He's living his dream. Let him have his dream.
Yeah, if you see nasty stuff on there, just report it and I'll take it off.
You seem like you've done a pretty good job weeding out the occasional people that want to make something more stupid than it needs to be, because most people, it seems like they support each other and like each other.
It's a good group.
And they're excited about music. They're not trying to pit people against each other or punk rock drumming in my day was this, and what kids do now is not. It's like,
I think it's because drumming is so hard to do.
It is, it's like, it's also like, you have to pack up all this shit. You got to bring it out to a club. You got to set it all up. You're fucking sweaty and exhausted afterwards. You've really worked your ass off. Then you got to break everything down and move it out. No one's helping you.
Right.
Guitar player barely breaks a sweat. It's like, it's a thankless job.
It's usually the other drummer from the band before you or whatever helping you,
handing you, grabbing the cymbals and cymbals and handing them to you to get them off the stage. It's like, only drummers understand that.
Yeah. It's like, I love you, but get your shit out of the way.
It's hard, it's like we really work, we really
do.
have to work at it.
Yeah, we're kind of rare too. I mean, I'm not saying that it's just the way it is. Like, finding a good solid drummer for your band is harder than finding a good solid guitar player.
It really is. And that cliche of you're only as good as your drummer, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's like, and a great drummer can make a lousy band sound great.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't think Dave Matthews got big off his voice.
It's like, whatever people like is what they like for sure. But I was just using him as an example.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But
we should edit on Dave Matthews. Like, keep it fucking punk rock.
What a huge influence Dave Matthews' music has always been for me. Next to the Spin Doctors and Hootie and the Blowfish.
I know, right? Did you hear his first band? It was Hootie and the Goldfish, and it was already taken. It was already taken. So
they were going to call it Pukey and the Goldfish.
It was actually Blowy and the Hootfish, but it just.
I have my photo with Hootie actually. I volunteered for Special Olympics for like 20 years, and we flew up to Iowa for the Special Olympics games, and he was like the performer, and so he was at his tour bus. He looked really high. His eyes were all red and everything, but he met, I don't know how many thousands of people that night. He was a good sport.
Let me ask one last question before we get out of here. What drummers have you guys met that you were like profoundly like excited about and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I met these guys? Just pick one guy, each of you. Just curious.
That I've actually met.
Yeah. Just like somebody that you liked and you had a nice encounter with them and you're like, that was cool.
Mine would be Trey Cool, even though I've met and hung out with Bill Stevenson a lot. I mean, like, I've been to his house and stuff, but like, I met Trey Cool in Austin during South by Southwest. He was riding a bicycle, like a small bike with a basket on the front. Nice. And nobody recognized him. And I was playing a show down the road, and my wife and I were like taking my drums from the parking garage to the club. And I go, that looks like Trey Cool. And they were playing that year. And like, nobody was talking to him. And I walked up to him and I was like, dude, I got to get a picture with you. And we didn't talk or anything like that, but he was really cool to me. And so I have a picture with Trey Cool on the streets of Austin.
Awesome.
Oh man, and it's funny is I can't really think of anything. I did get to talk to McDermott, who was in the Bouncing Souls, but went on to play with Joan Jett. And I've always loved the way he played. But it, in that too, being friends with some of those guys in the Souls, getting to watch George Rebello, who was also in Hot Water Music. He did an album with Against Me as well, and just it's for me, it was never like a star show. Just like, I guess, the privilege of getting to sit side stage and watch these people play. Like, I got to sit and watch Bill play. I guess I don't really have like a huge one. I will say, if I ever get to meet Igor from Sepultura, I will definitely call you and let you know, because that would be a huge one for me. And if anyone knows him, fucking have him email me. I want to get him on here so bad.
Sepultura have always had kick-ass drummers. He was the original guy. Of course, he was great. The guy that Eloy Casagrande,
yep,
amazing. And the guy that got now Grayson,
Nick Rootman,
is fucking a beast. He's fucking amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, now that we have the podcast, sorry, Christian. I was going to say, now that we have the podcast, we're talking to our favorite drummers almost weekly. So
that's it.
Just not in person.
Grayson plays all that fucking big band.
Oh, dude, that guy's awesome.
Oh, he's fucking. It's like when you see somebody that good. To me, it's never like, oh, I can't do that, so I don't. It's like that. It's just kind of inspiring to watch somebody that good. It makes you want to do what you do as good as you can do.
Yeah, and he's super young too.
Oh, he's super young. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I will backtrack a little bit if we're counting the podcast. I sent a Hail Mary Facebook message to Dave Mello from Operation Ivy. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And he's like, let's chat sometime. And he gave me his phone number. And I just looked at my wife and I'm like, I'm going to go down in the basement and call Dave Mello from Operation Ivy. And it was just, I mean, I grew up, I think I'm 44. I got into them when I was 12 or 13 and I learned how to play to those records. I was in a band, you know, we similar, you know, covering their songs and stuff. And he was just such a fucking nice dude. And he was so welcoming and he really was like excited to share a story. And I think I said this to you on the phone when we spoke the other day. I totally fucking Chris Farley, Paul McCartney'd him the whole time.
Remember when you did that?
yeah. It was the that's awesome count on that is fucking embarrassing. But
I mean, the way I look at it is if anybody is actually interested in something that you did, whether it was last week or 40 years ago, if they like it and they want to, you know, talk about it, it's, you know, what is wrong with that? That's like, nobody has to give a shit. Nobody has to care about, you know, we talked about Scared Straight. How long ago was that? That's fucking, you know, that's like several lifetimes ago.
Right.
If anybody, you know, if anybody cares about talking about that stuff, that's great, you know, because nobody has to give a shit. You guys didn't have to reach out to me at all, you know, so it's like, to me, it's a great thing. You know?
Well, I really wanted to get you on here because I mean, you've contributed a lot to the scene, just music in general through your art. But I knew that you had a big history of playing drums too, and I thought it would be cool to shine some light on another aspect of your artistic abilities. So I'm glad we got to have you on for sure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And if for some odd reason you ever find yourself in upstate New York and you want to get a tattoo, just let me know.
Okay. It would be the first tattoo I've ever gotten.
I would be a little nervous, but completely honored to give you your first one. So no pressure, obviously. But
no pressure.
All right. All right. We'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Thanks, both of you. I had fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Same. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, of course. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.